Hotep Peace family, Doshon Farad, welcome back to Expressions in Blackness. And I hope the sound in the background of this laptop is not going to interfere in this broadcast. But anyway, today we have a wonderful guest. All of our guests are wonderful, and some are even phenomenal. This is one of our wonderful and phenomenal guests. I've had her, not had her, that's with all due respect. I've interviewed her before on another stream. This is a comedian, a promoter, among other things. This sister here has worked with Nick Cannon and Wild 'N Out. She's his friend. Multi-talented sister from Do or Die Bedstuy, but she's currently based in Los Angeles. My good friend, Sister Davida D. Welcome back, Queen. How have you been?
I'm doing just fine. Thank you for having me. And I totally appreciate it. Always representing Brooklyn, honey. And I love to be back and be back in my hometown. And without them, I wouldn't be here. I thank you for having me. And following my career, I really, really appreciate that. So
Well,
let's get into
well,
it.
yes, ma'am. Well, Davida, last month, for those of you who are watching this, you may not be aware. Of course, I mentioned that Sister Davida is a promoter. She put
Mhm.
on comedy shows in different parts of the country, between east to the west, east
She's
and
a
west.
producer, homie. That's a
Producer,
different
thank you.
thing.
'Cause
She's a producer.
Davida, I was about to ask you if there was anything that I left out. I was.
Oh no, the girl is a creative producer. She's also a comedian. I'm an actress. I do voiceovers, and I'm also a writer. So, as you say, multi-talented, definitely.
Oh no,
That's what I do.
you're just a bad sister now, Queen. So what? Last month, the last time I was with our sister, it was at one. Notice what I said. One of her shows, one of her comedy
Mhm.
shows. She's a phenomenal comedian in her own right. So Davida, what we want to know is, what are your latest projects? What have you been up to in these past several months, or whatever you feel like talking about?
Sure. Oh, of course. The blessing is I did take some time off to spend time with my family. Prayers to both of my parents as they are right now, you know, going through what they go through without any details, but God got them. And that time off allowed me to reevaluate the transition in my life. When you get a certain age, you look back and you say, okay, what's next? What is the new creation I want to do? So, one of the things is, as you say, I produce a lot of comedy shows. One of the comedy shows I produced, my very first one was Happy Endings. Then, when I got to LA, I started producing with Tony T, which is also a comedian, Goddesses of Comedy. Goddesses of Comedy was allowing female comics to have a platform where they can have their vocal. It wasn't a limitation. And we're gonna now, which is I'm super excited about, there would be Goddess of Comedy for New York and LA coming 2024. So I'm really, really excited about that. And the whole purpose of Goddesses of Comedy is, as a female comic, I got to notice when I entered into certain rooms, or when you look at a lot of flyers, it's mainly male comedians. And then you'll see like one female comedian. Well, you will see no female comedians. And I'm all about uplifting our community and making sure women have voices as well. So that's where Goddess of Comedy, and that's the reason why it was born, to say, hey, ladies, here's a safe place for you to have a voice, and let them know there's more female comedians out there that you don't really see. You hear all of the male comedians, but there are so many talented women out there, and definitely want to give them a platform to express themselves. Now, the beauty thing of being back in Brooklyn, so I came to my hometown and I partnered up with Fly Private Social, which is a private club on DeKalb Avenue in Brooklyn, 240 DeKalb Avenue. It's also a restaurant and a lounge on other days, when the owner name is Howie Mike. And me and him teamed up together in December. We did our first comedy show together called Notorious Comedy. Fly Private Social Club is all about hip hop. I'm about comedy. We merged the two. I'm from Brooklyn, Bed-Stuy all day, and he's from Brooklyn. We merged it and came up with Notorious Comedy. We have another show coming next Friday. Yeah, 1 week. Oh my gosh. So January 26th at 8 p.m., we'll be at 240 DeKalb Avenue, Fly Private Social, and we will be bringing comedians like Mike Hernandez. Funny Hernandez is I had him before on one of my shows for Happy Endings, and he is extremely hilarious. Um, Q Brooks. Q Brooks and I actually came together. We met through Big JJ and Mope Williams. We ain't done Wildin' Out yet, the Wildin' Out show. I do some shows with those guys throughout the year, as well as in 2023. And I met Q Brooks, and we did a show together. I believe we were in Philly, I want to say, when we worked together. And if I got that wrong, Q Brooks, I'm so sorry. But he will be there on Friday. And some other comics, Freddie Sherfield, he'll be there. We also doing open mic and karaoke. Thank you everybody for listening to that promo, because that was a big promo, a long one. And I appreciate y'all. But I'm very proud of this because it feels so good to be back home, bringing comedy in where I'm born, raised, and where I started comedy at, and where I started my entire entertainment career at. So I'm really excited about it.
And of course, I'm actually scheduled to be in Brooklyn that day, so I'll definitely be making it. I'm so
Thank you. And I appreciate you for making it the other day. I definitely appreciated that.
Davida, hold 1 second. I'm in this room. Hold on, beloved. This is part of the graphics we can get away with this in new media. 1 second.
Okay.
I gotta pause this. Hold on, family. And we're black. Sorry about that. Right now, I'm in this room where you got to do almost like a step show. Act like you're drowning in order to get the light to stay on.
Oh, it's a motion
Oh,
sensor.
yes, ma'am, motion sensor. So in this age of new media, we can actually get away with doing certain things that you can't with regular media on air. So as I was saying before, we had that blackout. I'm scheduled to be in Brooklyn that day anyway, so I'll definitely be making it. I'll definitely be supporting it. Now, Davida, I have to ask you a question. When you were putting this together, uh,
Mhm.
I should say the show with the sisters, with the women. Uh,
Yes, Goddesses of Comedy.
Goddesses of Common. I like that name, by the way, too. By the way,
Thank you.
I love that. I love that. Uh, how long did it take you to put that together, and was it expensive?
Yes. Um, so producing that show for me was a no-brainer. I knew that this show had to happen. I sat down with Tony T. We discussed, because she's also a female comedian, and we discussed our different views in regards of what's going on in the comedy world. Then we met up with 77 Lounge. Maurice is the owner there in Los Angeles.
Mhm.
And we had a meeting and we said, hey, we want to put on this show, Goddesses of Comedy. He was like, no problem. How are we going to do this? And it felt really amazing to be at a Black owned business, because 77 Lounge is Black owned, and to be in Inglewood in California, and not necessarily on the Hollywood Strip, and bring comedy to that area. I love Inglewood. It does remind me a lot of Brooklyn. It gives me a little home vibe. So we brought that show on. We had celebrities show up, such as Vanessa Williams came through. We had a pack house first show, sold completely out. And the ladies that came through, from Kenesha Buzz, who is also a huge comedian. We had so many Precious Halls, so many people come through and hit that stage. And I said to myself, okay, yeah, this is it. Funny Sarie, she came through, and I was just like, all right, Sarai, I had to sit back. As though we were hosting the show, I sat back and I said, on the first show, Goddesses of Comedy, no matter what, is a must. And it's going to stay. And we got to figure out a way to keep building. And that's what we did. And we went back to the drawing board and say, hey, let's expand an East Coast, West Coast Goddesses of Comedy. So that's what we're in the works on now. When you're producing, you always want to have a budget.
Mhm.
So yes, it is expensive, because shade, no shade, but I want to pay more than I see certain clubs like, excuse me, Hollywood Improv and so forth on. I experience what that pay looks like. And when you're a new comedian, a lot of times you're just really excited to hit the stage. But my reality is, I have seen so many comedians that are homeless, so many comedians that will sit there, hit the stage, make people laugh, and don't know how they're getting home or not have enough gas. And we hear all of these stories from the successful comedians when they look back at their career and they think about them times they were sleeping in their cars. And I said, you know what? If God bless me, I'm definitely going to bless these comedians financially And so I pay my comedians. It's not like, oh, it's an open mic. And it doesn't matter how much the comedy show is. Like, my Friday shows, Notorious Comedy, is $5. Goddess is a comedy, it's $15. I don't like to break people pockets because I also feel that we also serving a community and keeping them laughing and keeping them going. So, and I don't want them to be like, I gotta not pay my T-Mobile bill and my rent to come to a show. It shouldn't be like that. Entertainment, I feel like, should be for everyone to just relax, take their mind off of any stress, and enjoy it. So with comedy, I pay every comedian that hits my stage. And yeah, that can become expensive, but guess what? It's worth it. And everybody say it's a price to pay when you're being the boss, honey. So that's my belief.
Now, the last time we spoke, there was something that slipped my mind, and I kind of I kicked myself quite a few times for it. I must ask you, okay, now you have a very impressive career, what you do,
Thank you.
as we said, multi-talented. But I must ask you, you've made a name for yourself already. You're not making a name, you've already made a name for yourself already. What was it like working with Nick Cannon? And just to let people who know me, I live in DC. I meant to tell you this, when we had spoke the last time. Washington, DC is my part-time home. So
Okay.
I can't tell you how many times that, Nick, when he was at Howard, I was there at that time, and Nick, he walked right past you, and most people didn't know it was him. The first time that I actually met Nick was when it was in 2017. We were honoring Dick Gregory. Nick came through. Dave Chappelle came through. I know Dave Chappelle. We're like in the same circles. Anyway, good brother. I had no complaints. He was there paying his respect to a comedic giant, Dick Gregory, an immortal who's now an ancestor.
Yes.
Okay.
And we had Mark Gregory on that Friday.
Right,
His
definitely.
relative,
When I saw
Mark Gregory, was at Notorious Comedy on December.
When I saw Mark, I said, Mark, I knew your cousin. I love that brother. Dick Gregory is one of my favorite memories about DC because he was a DC steeple, if you would. But anyway, what's it like working with Nick? How was that brother?
Oh my gosh. So before we even get into the wilding out part, here's the true fact that a lot of people don't know. I have worked behind the scenes for almost 20 years. Before I worked behind the scenes for almost like 10 to 15 years before I came to the front. And working behind the scenes, I have done like from MTV VMA'S, worked with Alicia Keys, Keep a Child Alive for 10 years. Like I have worked in different positions, as I would say, as from management to producing and so forth on. I got blessed to actually, I think it's called The Epic by Norwegian. And that boat was, the first year was coming out, the Macy's 4th of July fireworks, and we were looking for a host. We booked Nick Cannon. That was actually my first time working with Nick Cannon, was when we booked him to host the Macy's fireworks for the 4th of July on the Epic Norwegian cruise boat line. And from then I was like, this man is so humble, so sweet, so easy to work with. End up, fast forward, worked with him again on another event from like Samsung and so forth on. Fast forward later on in my career, and I'm doing audience warm up for Viacom, and I got the opportunity to do audience warm up for Wildin' Out. And from season 9, from then on, I said to myself, okay, it's a journey. I might have met him one time, I was a PA. I might have met him one time, I was a talent manager, but it was a journey, and the universe continues to make sure we work together. And working with him through Wildin' Out, that's when I got to know Nick Cannon, to watch his work ethic, to watch how humble he is. And when he says, I want to help people, he really means that. And he's not someone that's going to make you do something or jump through loops. But what do you need? How can I help you? Let me guide you. So when people ask me, how is it working with Nick Cannon? It's like working with your family members, because that's what Wildin' Out is. Wildin' Out is a family. I don't care if you the gaffer, if you a PA, you cast, crew, it don't matter. We all unite together. And that's because of who our leader is. Our leader is Nick Cannon. And that's what he projects, a family atmosphere. And we all are able to share our creative ideas amongst each other, work together. So when people ask me, how is it? My best thing and why I push Wildin' Out so much is because it's one of the productions I worked on And I was like, wow, this how it feels to come to work, but don't feel like you at work. Feel like you at a family reunion, seriously. So when you ask me, I would say Nick is an amazing person to work with. He is very focused. He's about his business, but he's also family orientated and humble. That's
Now,
my personal opinion. That's why you say you've seen him in Howard. Yeah, he's very humble.
no, he didn't have the turban on either. That was the thing.
No, he's really humble. He's very, very nice guy. I have no complaints when it comes to Mr. Nick Cannon. All I have is nothing but gratitude to actually have worked with somebody that is so creatively amazing.
Now, I don't want to get too much into this, but when he was going through the controversy, I'm not at all asking you your opinions about this.
Okay.
But when he was going through the anti-Semitic allegations, and he was going through it, they were trying to cancel him. Were you in contact with him at that time?
No, I was not.
Well, the reason why I was
Mhm.
asking is, I just wanted to speak with people around him to know what he was going through, to bounce back from that. That was it. Like I said, I don't want to get too much into it. So
I think that is definitely a personal question for Mr. Kent. Like you will have to personally ask him.
right, definitely. Like
Mhm.
I said, I wasn't trying to start anything, but good brother, good. And I'm gonna be honest with you. I actually I understand that when you're a public figure, it's like free reign. Everybody takes hits at you, but I don't like people. When you say family oriented, I don't like people mocking the fact that he, has, several children. That's his business. But what I like
Mhm.
about Nick is that I think he even made fun of himself, saying it's, pretty soon all these children are gonna be mine on the planet. But I like how he kind of turned that around on people.
Mhm.
He said, "Yeah, pretty soon all these children."
They
Okay,
bounce back. And then my thing is like the way you live your life is the way you live your life. And a lot of times, how do I say it? We're so focused on a certain way to live your life, that if someone goes against the grain, you're ready to cancel them. Why are you canceling someone? First of all, cancel culture is what really needs to be canceled.
wow,
That's how I feel.
definitely, because you're
Who are
speaking.
you to judge someone and tell them how to live their life? We all have one life to live, and opinions are like buttholes. Everybody got one, and everyone is allowed to have an opinion, and everyone is allowed to live their life any way they want to, as long as they're not hurting and killing somebody. All right, let's be clear, or robbing somebody and scamming, But reality is, we're so busy thinking of you're supposed to look this way, you're supposed to be this way, you're supposed to have this, you're supposed to do this, that you forget that I'm not living for you, I'm living for me. This is
And,
my life.
and since
So cancel culture needs to get canceled. Stop judging people and telling them what they need to do. Check your backyard and
the big,
check on you.
and I'm
Focus on you, baby. That's
and the
how
big,
I feel.
and I'm sure that's definitely significant to you being a comedian, because it's like in this day and time with cancel culture, everyone is so sensitive,
I
and
don't know why.
and of course I know comedians, I know other professional comedians like yourself, and
Mhm.
I know people who are not comedians, and they remember the days of Bernie Mac and that Kings of Comedy, and in
I love
comedy
Bernie.
even
That's my number one right there, but go ahead.
and of course Bill Marvin
Mhm.
defending Dave Chappelle, he said in comedy no one is off limits.
No one. I
I
remember being a little girl, so the first time I ever hosted in my life, I was 9 years old, please know. So, I remember being a little girl, not that little, but being in my grandmother's basement and me and my family roasting each other. Me and my brother used to roast each other. Why? Because it's comedy. There is no, what are you being so sensitive for? The whole purpose of comedy is to step away from everything and joke about all the seriousness that's going on in the world and laugh about it instead of cry about it. But now you're making comedians feel as though we got to curve what we say. You don't want to get canceled. Me personally, you can't tell me how to live. The jokes I tell you is the jokes of my life or my experiences, you know, and so forth on. If you're sensitive about it, give yourself a hug. What can you do?
you
What can
did
I You cannot please everybody on this earth. You can't.
it sounds like it's the Davida, as we get ready to wrap up, it sounds like you're telling people. uh I remember the joke Eddie Murphy told about Richard Pryor and Bill
Mhm.
Cosby, complaining about his jokes, and he said Richard Pryor told me tell Bill Cosby have a coke and a smile.
Yes, it's a coconut smile. Like, honestly, when I look at comedians, because now comedians are going like from the Cat Williams interview and so forth on that we're now looking at, I was like, it looked like a roast situation that's going on, but I hate to see us comedians going back and forth with each other if it's not us roasting. You know what I mean? When you say this comedian is funny, but this comedian is not funny. Listen, funny is funny, but funny for you might not be funny for me. That's the whole point of having two different personalities. Something that can make me laugh might not make you laugh, but that doesn't mean that comedian is not funny. It just means that their type of comedy is just not yours. And it's okay. It's okay. That's why there's so many different brands, honey.
Well, listen, Davida, as we get ready to wrap up, beloved, if you could please tell people where we can find you and social media wise, email wise, website, etc.
Yes, please find me. It's your girl, first of all. It's your girl, Davida D, and the place to be. And you better follow me on Instagram, baby, at IAMDAVIDA.D. And on IamDavida.D. Also, you can find me on Facebook as Davida D, the comedian. I post for Notorious Comedy and any other shows that I'm doing and I got coming up, any of the movies that I am in, because it will be posted on there, and so forth and so on. So please follow me on IG. And for anybody that's in the Brooklyn or the tri-state area and you find yourself in New York, please come to 240 DeKalb Avenue at Fly Private Social. Beautiful upstairs, downstairs brownstone, where Notorious Comedy Show will be at January 26th
Light went out
at
again.
8 p.m.
But anyway, family, listen up. I don't feel like waving because we're winding down. I'm
Mhm.
Sister Davida, thank you very much for joining me. And family, I'm Doshon Farad, and please support the efforts of Expressions in Blackness. You can cash at me, D Farad, or Zelle or PayPal me at 347-898-5556. Hotep family. Thank you, Sister Davida.
Thank you so much, and thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Hold 1 second, Queen. Hold on, stay right there.
Okay.
Stay right there.
Ooh.
Second. Okay, family, sorry about that. As I want to say it to you in the light. Doshon Farad, cash at me, D Farad, Zelle PayPal 347-898-5556. Thank you very much. Stay with us, Queen. I'm gonna stop recording.